He was a billionaire. He had everything: power, money, respect. But on a dusty road, he made one decision that changed his life forever. When an old woman carrying firewood called him "my son," he chose pride over compassion and rolled up the window. This is a story about success, shame, and the price of denying where you come from. The road cut through the land like an old scar, long and unforgiving. Red dust rose behind the black SUV in heavy clouds, coating the dry bushes and low trees that lined the way. The sun hung high and merciless above the village, bleaching the sky into a pale, restless blue. Heat pressed down on everything, thick and suffocating, the kind that made even breathing feel like work. Inside the SUV, the world was different. Cool air flowed softly from the vents. The leather seats were smooth and dark, untouched by dust or sweat. The windows were tinted, shielding the passengers from the harshness outside, as if the vehicle itself was a barrier between two realities. Malik Johnson sat behind the wheel. His hands were steady, resting confidently on the steering wheel. A gold watch glinted on his wrist every time sunlight slipped through the glass. His face was calm, composed, the face of a man who had mastered control. In San Francisco, this face appeared on business magazines and tech panels. In boardrooms, it commanded respect. In luxury hotels, it turned heads. But this road did not care who Malik Johnson had become. Beside him sat his wife, Claire. She leaned slightly forward in her seat, curiosity lighting her eyes as she watched the village pass by. Small houses with rusted tin roofs stood scattered along the roadside. Children played barefoot in the dust, their laughter carrying faintly through the heat. Women balanced baskets and bundles on their heads, walking with practiced grace. Claire smiled softly. "This is where you grew up?" she asked, her voice gentle, filled with interest. Malik nodded once. "Yes, somewhere around here." He did not add anything more. Claire glanced at him, sensing the tightness beneath his calm. He had insisted on this visit being short. "Just a drive through," he said. "A quick look. No stopping, no meetings, no delays." She had found it strange, but she hadn't pushed. Until the road curved slightly and everything changed. Ahead on the right side of the road, an old woman walked slowly under the sun. Her back was bent, but her steps were steady. A heavy bundle of firewood rested on her head, tied together with rope that looked as old as she was. Dust clung to her worn wrapper and faded blouse. Sweat streamed down her face, cutting thin lines through the dirt on her skin. She lifted her head as the SUV approached, and she froze. Her eyes widened. The firewood on her head shifted slightly as her body trembled. For a second, she simply stared, as if she were looking at something impossible. Then her lips parted. "Malik?" The name left her mouth like a fragile prayer. Inside the SUV, Malik's foot eased off the accelerator without him realizing it. His chest tightened, his jaw locked, his eyes fixed on the woman ahead, unblinking, as if staring hard enough could make her disappear. Claire followed his gaze. She saw the woman, the firewood, the sweat, the exhaustion written into every line of her face, and she felt something pull at her heart. "My love," Claire said softly, touching Malik's arm. "Let's help her. She's carrying too much. We can give her a ride or at least drop her nearby." The old woman took a few steps closer to the road, hope pushing her tired legs forward. Her voice grew stronger, though it shook. "Malik, my son." The words hit like a blow. Malik's fingers tightened around the steering wheel. His heart slammed hard against his ribs. Memories surged up, uninvited dusty mornings, empty stomachs, calloused hands lifting him onto a tired back. "No," he said sharply. Claire blinked. "No!" Before she could say anything else, Malik reached for the window control, his thumb pressed down. "No," he repeated, colder this time. "We're not stopping." The window began to rise. Outside, the old woman's eyes shone as a recognition fully settled in. She knew that face. She had memorized it long before it appeared on screens and billboards. "Malik," she called again, louder now. "It's me, Mama Bina." Claire's smile faded. "Malik," she said slowly, confused. "She knows you." Malik didn't look at her. His eyes stayed locked on the woman as the glass climbed higher between them. She's trying to cause trouble, he said. Some village women do this. They pretend. They want money. Claire stared at him in disbelief. That's not fair. She looks exhausted. She looks... Claire, Malik snapped, this is my village. You don't understand these people. Outside, Mama Abina struggled forward, the firewood wobbling dangerously on her head. Her hand lifted, trembling. My son, she begged, her voice breaking. Please, it's your mother. For one brief, dangerous moment, Malik's eyes filled with something that looked like water. Just for 1 second, something inside him cracked, whispering his name the way it used to, reminding him of nights when hunger was loud and comfort was scarce. Then fear surged. Fear of being seen, fear of being exposed, fear of the past reaching into his perfect present. His pride slammed the door shut. Close it, he said harshly. The tinted glass slid up, cutting Mama Abana's face in half, then hiding it completely. Her raised hand remained frozen in the air, trapped behind dark glass. Malik, she cried, wait! Her voice was swallowed by the engine as Malik pressed harder on the accelerator. The SUV lunged forward, dust exploding behind it as they sped past. Claire twisted in her seat, staring through the back window. The old woman stood in the middle of the road, firewood still on her head, her hands still raised as if reaching for something that had already vanished. Tears streamed freely down her face, glistening in the sun. Claire turned back slowly. Her heart was pounding. That woman called you her son, she said. She said she was your mother. And we came here because you told me you wanted to show me where you're from. Malik's throat tightened. He swallowed hard, then forced a short laugh that sounded hollow even to his own ears. She's not my mother, he said. Claire frowned. Malik! She's trying to ruin my day, he snapped. It's a bad omen. A bad omen? Claire repeated, stunned. Because an old woman asked for help? Malik drove faster, the village blurring past them. I don't know her, he said again, louder now, as if volume could turn lies into truth. People here can be dangerous. They use names. They use words to tie your destiny. Claire felt a chill crawl up her spine. This was not the man she knew. In San Francisco, Malik smiled easily. In public, he donated to charities and posed with children. He spoke about humility and hard work. But here on this road, his face was hard as stone. Claire looked out the window again. The village was already far behind them. Why would an old woman call you her son if she doesn't know you? She whispered. Malik didn't answer. He just drove. And as the SUV crossed the boundary out of the village, something invisible crossed with it. Something heavy, something final. Neither of them knew it yet, but the moment Malik rolled up that window, his life had already begun to unravel. The village did not speak of what happened on the road, but it felt it. Dust settled slowly after the black SUV disappeared, drifting back onto leaves, roofs, in the cracked earth, as if trying to erase the moment. Mama Abina stood where Malik had left her, unmoving, the firewood still balanced on her head, her raised hand trembling in the empty air. For a long time she did not cry. Her body felt numb, like the heat had drained everything inside her. When she finally lowered her arm, the weight of the firewood shifted, reminding her that life did not stop just because her heart had shattered. She adjusted the bundle carefully and turned back toward the narrow path leading to her compound. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because of the firewood but because of shame. People had seen, not many but enough. A woman selling cassava by the roadside had looked away quickly. Two boys who had been chasing each other slowed, their laughter fading as they watched her pass. Mama Abina kept her head high. She had learned long ago how to carry pain quietly. Her house sat at the edge of the village, small and tired, with walls of cracked mud and a roof patched together from old zinc sheets. The wooden door creaked as she pushed it open. Inside, the air was still and warm. A thin mattress lay on the floor beside a small stool and a cooking pot blackened by years of fire. She gently lowered the firewood and sat down. That was when the tears came. They fell without sound at first, rolling down her cheeks and dropping onto her wrapper. Her shoulders shook as memories flooded in, sharp and unstoppable. Malik as a boy, hungry eyes, skinny legs, a smile that never quite hid the fear. She closed her eyes and the past rose around her like a storm. Years ago, before Malik became a name people respected, before he wore suits and spoke into microphones, there was only a small boy and his mother trying to survive. Malik's father had died suddenly when Malik was 9. One day he was there, strong, loud, laughing, and the next day he was gone, carried out of the house on a wooden board, wrapped in cloth. After the burial, the house became painfully quiet. No more shared meals. No more steady income. No more protection. Mama Abana became everything. She worked the fields at dawn, her feet sinking into wet soil. By midday, she sold vegetables at the market. In the evenings, she went into the bush to gather firewood, tying heavy bundles together and balancing them on her head to sell for a few coins. Sometimes she came home exhausted, her body aching, her hands blistered. But Malik always had food, even when it meant she ate nothing. When other women whispered about remarriage, Mama Abina shook her head. "My son is enough," she would say. At night, Malik slept beside her on the thin mat, his small body curled close. She would stroke his hair and whisper promises into the darkness. "You will not suffer like me," she told him again and again. "You will go far, further than this village, further than this pain." And Malik believed her. He was smart, curious, hungry for more than the village could give. When he won a scholarship to attend school in Accra, Mama Abina cried, not from fear, but from pride. She sold her best cooking pot to pay for his transport. When Malik later left for the United States, she stood at the bus stop holding back tears, smiling as he hugged her. "Don't forget me," she said softly. "I won't," Malik promised. At first he called, then less often, then only when he needed something, then not at all. As Malik's life expanded, Mama Abina's world grew smaller. She heard about his success from others. Someone showed her a newspaper once, his picture printed beside words she could barely read. She smiled proudly and folded the paper carefully, keeping it under her mattress. "My son," she would say to anyone who listened, "God has blessed him." She did not complain when money stopped coming. She did not ask why his number no longer worked. She only prayed. Back in the present, Mama Abina wiped her face and looked up at the low ceiling. "God," she whispered, her voice shaking, "if I ever failed my son, forgive me." Her hands clenched slowly. "But if I gave him my life, if I suffered for him, then hear me." Her words grew heavier, not sharp with anger, but thick with pain. "Teach him what pride hides from the heart." She did not curse him. She simply asked for truth. That night she lay on her mat, staring into the dark, her body aching, her spirit bruised. Thousands of miles away, Malik pretended the village did not exist. Back in San Francisco, life resumed its polished rhythm. Meetings filled his schedule. Assistants hovered. Emails poured in. He buried himself in work with the same intensity he once used to climb out of poverty. Claire watched him closely. Something had changed. He was shorter with staff. He snapped easily. He avoided silence, filling every moment with noise or motion. When Claire mentioned the village, his face hardened. "Let's not talk about that," he said one evening. She wanted to push. She wanted to ask why an old woman calling him son made him look afraid. But something in his eyes warned her. So she stayed quiet, until the cracks widened. It started with phone calls from lawyers, then meetings canceled without explanation, then whispers in boardrooms. Malik noticed the tension in his company, but he brushed it aside. He had survived worse, he told himself. He was untouchable now. He was wrong. Late one night, Malik sat alone in his office, staring at financial reports. His phone buzzed on the desk. Unknown number. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Then a message appeared. "My son, it's Mama. Please." His chest tightened violently. He turned the phone face down. At the same moment, another alert flashed on his computer screen, an internal audit notice, marked urgent. Malik frowned. Somewhere deep inside, something stirred. A warning, a memory, a truth he had tried to bury. The road he thought he had left behind was quietly finding its way back to him. And it was not finished. The knock on the door did not sound urgent. That was what made it terrifying. Malik was in his home office overlooking the city, San Francisco spread beneath him in glass and steel. The late morning sun reflected off neighboring towers, painting the room in pale gold. He was reviewing numbers on a tablet, his mind half occupied, when the knock came again, firm, controlled, official. Claire looked up from the couch. "Are you expecting someone?" Malik frowned. "No." The knock came a third time. He stood, irritation rising. Powerful men did not get interrupted like this without warning. As he reached the door, a strange tightness wrapped around his chest, the same feeling he had felt on the village road when the old woman spoke his name. He opened the door. 4 men stood there, 2 in dark suits, 2 in uniform. Badges flashed, faces unreadable. "Mr. Malik Johnson," the lead officer said calmly, "we have a warrant for your arrest." The world tilted. Claire gasped behind him. "What? There must be some mistake." Malik laughed once, sharply. "This is absurd," he said. "Do you know who I am?" The officer didn't blink. "Yes, we do." Handcuffs came out. Metal clicked. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Claire screamed his name as they turned him around. Malik tried to speak, to demand, to threaten, to call someone, but his voice failed him. His wrists were pulled back. Cold steel closed around them. Reporters appeared as if summoned by blood. Cameras flashed. Neighbors watched from behind curtains. Within minutes, Malik Johnson, the man who had built himself from nothing, was led into a black vehicle, his head high, but his eyes burning with fear. As the door slammed shut, his phone vibrated in his pocket. One last message slipped through before it was confiscated. "My son, are you okay?" The headlines exploded. Tech billionaire arrested fraud and tax evasion allegations. The fall of a Silicon Valley giant. Claire didn't sleep that night. She moved through the mansion like a ghost, answering calls from lawyers, publicists, and friends who suddenly sounded distant. Malik's study became a crime scene. Documents seized, computers unplugged, drawers emptied. By morning, the house felt hollow. In the detention center, Malik sat on a hard bench under fluorescent lights. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His watch had been taken. The walls were bare. The air smelled of disinfectant and fear. For the first time in his life, there were no assistants, no doors open for him. No one called him sir. He stared at his hands. These hands had signed contracts worth millions. Now they shook. "How did this happen?" he whispered. The question echoed uselessly. Days passed. Interrogations, lawyers, paperwork. The evidence was heavy, too heavy. Accounts he didn't recognize. Documents he swore he never signed. Decisions made in his name without his knowledge, or so he claimed. Someone had planned this. Someone close. But none of that mattered to the system. What mattered was that he was falling. Claire visited him for the first time after a week. They spoke through glass. She looked smaller somehow, her confidence dulled by exhaustion. Malik picked up the phone slowly, his pride already bleeding away. "Claire," he said hoarsely, her eyes filled with tears. "They say it's bad." "They're lying," he insisted. "I didn't do this. Someone framed me." She searched his face, desperate for certainty. "The lawyers say the documents are clean." Malik swallowed hard. His mind raced. Then something else broke through. Not fear, not anger, regret. "Claire," he said quietly, "I need you to do something for me." She leaned closer. "What?" "Go to Africa." Her breath caught. "The village?" "Yes." She hesitated. "Why now?" His voice cracked. "Because I might not get another chance." Silence pressed between them. "She's called Mama Abina," he continued. "She lives in my father's old house." Claire's chest tightened. "My mother," Malik whispered. "I denied her. I was ashamed. I chose pride." Tears slid down his face unchecked. "I need to beg her," he said. "Please, find her." Claire closed her eyes. "I'll go," she said. The village felt different when Claire arrived alone. Quieter, heavier. The same dusty road stretched ahead of her, but now it seemed longer, harsher. Villagers stared openly as her car passed. They recognized wealth. They also recognized disgrace. She asked for Mama Abina's house. Some people pointed silently. Others looked away. When she reached the compound, her heart sank. The door hung open. The yard was empty. No firewood stacked. No movement. no life. She knocked. Nothing. A woman passing by slowed and studied her carefully. "Excuse me," Claire asked, her voice trembling. "Mama Abana, does she live here?" The woman's face changed. Her eyes softened. "Oh," she sighed. "You didn't hear." Claire's stomach dropped. "Hear what?" The woman lowered her gaze. "She died." The word hit like a blow. "Died?" Claire whispered. "Some days ago," the woman continued. "She was sick. There was no one to take care of her." Claire collapsed to her knees. Dust coated her expensive clothes as she cried openly, hands pressed to her mouth to stop the scream tearing through her chest. "She talked about her son until the end," the woman added quietly, "even when she could barely speak." Claire felt something tear inside her. When she returned to the detention center, Malik knew immediately. Her eyes told him before her mouth did. "Where is my mother?" he asked, already shaking. Claire lifted the phone. Her voice broke. "She's gone." Malik stared at her. "Gone where?" "She died." The sound that came from him was not human. He screamed. A raw, animal cry ripped from his chest as he collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "No," he choked. "I wanted to beg her. I wanted to say sorry." Guards rushed in. Claire cried with him, her hands pressed to the glass. "You denied her the chance to live," she said through tears, "and you denied yourself forgiveness." Malik beat his chest like a man trying to tear the guilt out of his body. "My pride killed my mother," he sobbed. That night alone in his cell, Malik did not sleep. The village returned to him in vivid detail. The dusty road, the firewood, the raised hand, and the window sliding up. For the first time, the truth came fully. He had not just driven away from a woman, he had driven away from the only person who loved him without conditions. And now there was no road left to turn back on. Time did not heal Malik Johnson. It stripped him. Days inside the detention center turned into months, and months slowly bled into years. The world outside continued to move. Markets rose and fell. New companies were born. New faces replaced his on magazine covers. But Malik remained trapped in a narrow space of concrete, steel, and memory. Prison did not shout at him. It whispered. At night, when the lights dimmed and the noise settled into distant echoes, Malik lay on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. That was when the past returned most clearly. Not as fragments, not as blurred regrets, but as full scenes he could not escape. The dusty road, the firewood, the trembling hand, the tinted window rising inch by inch. Mama Abana's voice followed him everywhere. "My son." He began losing weight. His shoulders sank. His skin dulled. The man who once walked with confidence now moved slowly, carefully, as if every step carried invisible weight. Other inmates did not know his full story, but they sensed his fall. Some mocked him quietly. Others ignored him completely. For the first time in his life, Malik was invisible. Claire visited when she could. At first, she came often bringing news from lawyers, updates on appeals, fragments of hope. She sat across from him, listening as he spoke in broken sentences about guilt, shame, and the moment that destroyed everything. "I didn't think she would die," he told her once, his voice hollow. "I thought I had time." Claire looked at him with tired eyes. "We always think we have time." As months passed, the visits became fewer. Not out of cruelty, out of truth. Eventually, new evidence surfaced. A former business partner confessed under pressure. Financial experts uncovered forged documents. The truth emerged slowly, painfully. Malik had been framed, but truth did not move quickly through legal systems. 5 years passed before the court reconsidered his case. 5 years of confinement, 5 years of reflection, 5 years of regret. When the judge finally ruled that Malik Johnson was not fully guilty, the courtroom was quiet. The sentence was reduced to time served. He would walk free. The gavel came down. Freedom? But Malik felt no joy, because freedom could not bring Mama Abina back. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed again. Claire stood beside him, her face unreadable. Malik turned to her, tears filling his eyes. "Thank you," he said, "for staying." She nodded, but something in her expression was distant. As they walked toward the car, Claire stopped. "Malik," she said softly, "we need to talk." He froze. Not from fear of prison this time, from fear of loss. "I stayed," Claire continued, her voice steady but heavy. "I stayed when you were arrested. I stayed during the trial. I stayed while you were inside. I stayed when I learned your mother died." Malik nodded slowly. "I know. But staying doesn't mean I can continue," she said. The words hit harder than any sentence a judge could pass. "What do you mean?" he asked, though his heart already knew. Claire wiped her tears. "I can forgive you, but I can't be married to a man who denied the woman who gave him everything." Malik dropped to his knees on the pavement. People passing slowed. Some stared. Others whispered. "Please," he begged. "I've lost my mother. I've lost years of my life. Don't leave me too." Claire's voice broke. "You lost your mother long before she died. You lost her the day you rolled up that window." She gently removed his hand from hers. "Goodbye, Malik." The car drove away. Malik remained on the ground, crying like a child who had finally understood what he had destroyed. Freedom felt empty. The mansion echoed. The rooms were too large, too quiet. Claire's belongings were gone. Her presence vanished like warmth leaving a body. Malik returned to business eventually. His company reopened. Contracts returned. Money flowed again. But joy did not. He refused to remarry. He avoided celebrations. He stopped chasing public praise. Instead, he built schools in villages like the one he came from. He funded hospitals. He supported widows quietly, anonymously. The world called it redemption. Malik called it penance. At night, guilt slept beside him. Sometimes he dreamed of Mama Abina. She never spoke. She only looked at him with eyes filled not with anger, but with sadness. Years later, Malik was driving alone on a quiet road outside a small town. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the earth. Ahead, an old woman walked slowly with firewood balanced on her head. His chest tightened. The memory hit like a wave. Malik stopped the car immediately. He stepped out, his hands shaking. "Please," he said, his voice breaking, "let me help you." The woman looked surprised, then smiled warmly. "God bless you, my son." He lifted the firewood into his car and drove her home. As he did, tears streamed freely down his face. Because no matter how much good he did, no matter how much wealth returned, there was one thing he could never fix. He had denied his mother when she needed him most, and that lesson stayed with him forever. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel for more powerful life stories. Leave a comment and tell us, where are you watching from?